Let's give a little background. I had said heart-centered pros want to distinguish themselves from abusive, harsh, mindless trainers, and that when we review websites, we see deeper connection, harmony, mutual trust, bonding, all of that stuff. But my point is that I have these values. These are values. I want to hold them, but I also want to align them with my goals, riding and horsemanship. And I would like you to have a structure to take me there. And so a lot of sites are now saying, build this bond with your horse, etc. So that's the thing from a marketing perspective. That's what's missing is the so that.
Mm-hmm.
So that what happens? I can stay safe. My horse can feel safe. Whatever it is, there were these responses. Basically, Lockie responded. What he's saying, if I understand right, it becomes an overused way of describing what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heart-centered folks now, or pros, are now teaching you how to bond, find harmony, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And then also, he mentioned somewhere that the Olympics now pick that up. And we know that that's not the case, right? Mm-hmm. So my point was that we need to take into account, at least that was my theory, that we have a rational mind, a goal set mind, and a value set mind. Mm-hmm. We want this to be in a way that feels aligned with our heart, but we still want to do something. We don't want to just stand there and see them eat grass. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the idea.
I think that what's happening with the Olympics throwing a spotlight on abuse and more heart-centered, ethical horse people actually feeling like they can step up and stand out and share their voices is that connection, bond, partnership. They're going to feel superficial. The rational side is going to override the intuitive side.
Correct.
So for up until now, those words have kind of been enough for people to market themselves because it hit people in the feels. And now with so many other people getting on board, including mainstream trainers that may be questionable, that's not enough.
The words lose their power.
Say, yeah, but I see that other people are using these words and they're not in alignment, right?
Correct. Yeah. So then, I don't trust those words anymore.
Exactly.
But even if I trust you with those words, the so that behind it is missing. Mm-hmm. I want to bond with my horse so that he feels great when he sees me is one thing. That's fantastic. Hooty-hoo, we made it to the gate. We're meeting at the gate. So that I'm not going to go stay at the gate. So that, he walks to the barn with me on a loose rein and we matching steps and we feel this harmony. Great. So that.
Yeah. And the issue is that it depends entirely on who your audience is and the level of skill and goals that they have.
And problems
that they have, because you can say all of those buzzwords and to an advanced rider like yourself or me, it's going to mean something 100% different than from somebody that just purchased their first horse, is an adult amateur, and wants to have that magical Black Beauty moment with their horse, even though they and their horse are not anywhere near ready for that.
Correct. And what is that Black Beauty moment going to look like? Is that galloping rain-free, across, the Irish hedges? Then that's a huge goal. Exactly. That's not a small feat, right? Let's say I start from a spectrum. Let's take a spectrum. I buy the wrong horse. This horse is really messed up, or I rescue one, whatever. And it sees me and it gets aggressive. That's right here. I might buy the wrong horse and it's pretty disillusioned and it turns its butt to me when I pick it up. I might have a horse that looks at me and goes, take it or leave it. Okay. Or one that when you put the halter on, they turn into little machines because that's what they're conditioned to, right? So you have a spectrum of issues. from like a super nervous horse to a dangerous horse, a super nervous horse, a reluctant horse. Pretty soon I'm back in my herd horse to like a really great worker. And now we're getting into this zone right here where it's much harder, even for us experienced people, to know if the horse is actually conditioned or like is willingly participating or is so conditioned that you wouldn't even notice the difference.
I used to, when I was still training and teaching, I used to define it as compliance versus connection.
Right.
You know?
But that's a subtle little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most people is on the more of the beginnerish or the beginning of this journey spectrum actually mean comply when they mean bond. Because giving a horse a voice is an incredibly scary thing.
Because they can say no.
I could say no. So here's a really great example. Last Sunday, my husband and I, we tack up and we realize the big group is going out at the same time. So we're like, oh, one of those things where we could just hook onto the back. Fantastic. My pretty mellow Lusitano goes, well, you haven't seen me in 2 weeks. And hallelujah, I remember how much fun this is to go in a big herd. And he starts prancing in the back. And as he cannot pass anybody, he goes sideways in the back. So what do you do now? He's clearly expressed a preference for how the day goes, right? Like, okay, this is not too fun. Because I know pretty soon the leader is going to go 2 for trot and 3 for canter, and I'm already having one that at the walk is going some really interesting crooked side pass. So what do you do in that moment? You're really asking for compliance. I have a powerful horse underneath me that just happens to be most of the time an extreme gentleman, right? But I could feel it. And he has a short back. He made himself short. That head was coming down. And I couldn't really care about Bond at that point.
Yeah, no, that's
I cared about my butt more than anything, right? Now, here's the thing. Do you have it in your tool bag to say, what can I do to facilitate, make it easier for the horse to reconnect with me and build that bond where we both have fun on that trail, right? That's really the question. In my case, I just kind of creeped slowly up by all those people, put myself way in the front, because what was happening is he was hearing the dogs who know every stretch where it goes faster. That was like triggering a bell in him, except now he had to wait until after, when people like cars at a red light, he had to wait for all these horses to pick up the gate. And it was just driving him nuts, right? So I went all the way in the front, talked to the leader, and he says, look, if it's not getting better behind me, then just go in the front. Because I knew once it was in the front, all that desire to, go was going to be gone. But you have to know that.
Yep. And
right?
The other thing I think that's a really big deal is you have to know that you have the ability and the right to dictate compliance when necessary.
When needed, absolutely. Leadership, right? So it's these different types of leaderships. It would have been silly to go, I really want to bond with my guy. I could have gotten off and done something completely different. Was right at the barn where I could feel this excitement for the day. I could have just gotten off, gone to the arena, not participated, and done some bonding exercises.
But that's the difference between experience and not.
And my goal was coming in.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't want to get off. I'm having fun too, right? Yeah. And I think I have a right too to feel excited about this. When we go with that group, it's always an adventure. And he knew that, I knew that. So how do you now channel that? So I think that when people come to the website and they see, bond with your horse, harmony with your horse. Well, I was in the way back. That was certainly not harmonious, at least, probably from his perspective, mine was not too harmonious. So I can create a situation that makes it easier for us to stay together, but was really my main goal at that point to have the deepest connection possibly with him? Like, no, honestly, I can't say. And like you said, it's different leadership. Let's go first, get control back over the situation, you know? I have like a thin bozal on his nose. I don't have any, I can't apply force. Don't want to. So what else can one do? And I think that a lot of people have those issues more than anything else.
Yeah. And how to have a safe, connected partnership with the skills that are appropriate to your level. And it's up to the trainers and body workers and educators to speak to their people, identifying exactly what those issues are so that they can meet the goal of that connection with safety for all the parties involved and have a true partnership. And partnerships, anybody that has a good marriage knows, sometimes you say, look, I just need you to do what I'm asking right now so that we can get through this moment and enjoy it. Sort of like traveling with somebody is like, you know what, this part is not fun. I need you to come with me. We're going to get through it. And then we're going to have a great time. Or
yeah, how the hell are you going to bond when you're not even feeling safe? And so when we're looking at websites, I would want to know who they're working with, who's their primary audience. Is it an audience that falls into fear very quickly and doesn't have the tools to first bring back the safety so that the bond is possible? Or do they have somebody like me? I don't need to ask anybody how I can keep myself safe on the trail. I get compliance. Force-free compliance, because I know the psychology of the horse. And if that means getting off, that's okay too, right? But then I would be more interested in like, okay, what's beyond compliance? So now that he's like on his third long canter gallop, all of a sudden we were back in harmony. The trick might be is like somebody less experienced might still hang on because they haven't felt that switch. But I want to know that when I come on a website. I want to see when I read a website is, are they speaking to me? So that's kind of like Lockie said, like overused term now, bonding. And like you said, depending on where they're at, it feels different to each person.
Yep, absolutely. It goes several steps back from just the website. You know, it goes to you as a trainer or a teacher or a practitioner of some sort, understanding who you serve best, how you serve them best, and being able to step out of that expert role and step into the beginner mind, which so many of us out there have forgotten, like completely and utterly.
Including us when we talk, marketing language. It's
exactly. And, then there's the challenge of those horsemen and women who are naturally gifted, who have never experienced what it's like to have those struggles. And so it takes a lot of soul searching or conversation with people that have been in those shoes to really understand it and be able to speak to them.
Absolutely. You have to really like step back for a moment and say, okay, put these type of scenarios, like I was just telling, like, would I work with somebody like this? No, yes. What other scenarios do they encounter? I mean, when I first came back to Germany, I worked with a lot of fearful riders. Going from here to here was like a huge accomplishment. I don't capture that on my website, that's who I'm working with. Somebody who's terrified of the mounting block and wants to get their horse to understand that it's okay to stand at the mounting block, to wait for them to get on, and understand this mixed emotion between feeling safe and want to bond. Explain that to us on the website. So somebody says, oh my God, that's me. And that's, I think, is the biggest issue, that these words no longer are specific enough for
Yep.
me to identify myself with those
Yep.
words, or disidentify where I go, that's not for me.
Or you maybe do specialize in working with very advanced or skilled riders or intermediate to advanced who want that, who want to transition from this, you know, skill-based, highly trained, highly compliant horse that does it or else to something softer and more gentle and compassionate. But they see those the words bond or connection or partnership, and it doesn't have enough meaning for them that
Mhm.
it's subtlety, it's skill, it's mindset, it's digging deeper into compassion.
It also doesn't give me enough of a picture
Mhm,
that initiates my desire inside my head.
mhm, mhm,
Bond goes in here, out there. It just doesn't grab me, because also compliance and bond can look so close,
mhm,
like identical, that I might be, as an experienced writer, be under the impression I have bond, so therefore I don't need this person,
mhm, mhm.
when I really have mainly compliance. So point out to me the subtlety between compliance, like help me identify what you actually have when you ride
Mhm.
most of the time.
What is the transformation that your ideal client is looking for?
Correct. And some of these sites, again, the websites representing the curriculum that the people present, is so then when I have bond, what can I do with that bond? What would the horse be willing to show me? Is the bond that the horse is willing to show me that he or she does not want to do something? We talk about bond as something like, when you have the bond, they're going to do everything for you.
And that's not it.
That is not a true bond. That is compliance.
Mhm. It's
If I
not
have
a
a
true
bonded relationship
partnership.
with my child, they're going to speak up and say, Mom, that was not cool. Not, yes, ma'am. Mm-mm, no, ma'am. Of course, ma'am. That's not bond, you know?
Exactly. No, it's servitude.
Yeah. Which at times, like in my case last Sunday,
Mhm,
honestly, I gotta say, first I wanted that back.
mhm,
Then,
mhm,
so let's take this to parenting the same way. I got a little child. I need to cross the street. It's
mhm.
busy. I'm not gonna go and work on my bond.
Nope. You're gonna
I'm
grab
gonna
their
go
hand.
and keep us safe.
Yep, yep.
And then once we're across the street, I'm gonna do everything in my power to go, great job, do everything again to get a much more subtle connection back with my child. But
Mhm,
in the moment of crossing the street, that is not a priority. And so that's kind of, I think, where it becomes more subtle, this whole conversation around bonding and harmony. What does that? So harmony is another one.
mhm.
How do I actually define that?
It's not that Disney fairy tale moment where you're traveling through the woods on your horse and all of the birds come twittering down and the deer crosses your path and, stands there and gazes at you like, yeah, that's beautiful, but it's different for every single rider,
Right.
you
And
know?
horse.
Yeah, and horse. A Western trail rider might be looking for that moment. A dressage rider might be looking for that moment where the horse is so in tune that you just think a thought and you execute a movement and you both find joy in expressing that
That
artistic.
the trick is, and both find joy. How do I
Exactly.
know that? How do I know that? Because the trick is, harmony could also be such a finely tuned horse that it does almost comply for my thought. That's
Mhm,
great. But how do I know that it's enjoying itself?
mhm. And those are the things that need to be addressed that haven't been addressed by using those buzzwords.
Right, exactly. It's like we are going through compliance to opening up the conversation.
Mhm,
Or, if that's somebody's journey, we're not going to prescribe how you're going to do that. That's the trainer's job. But like, tell us first, we're going to go and establish this leadership. Then we're going to, you know, and then, when you get to that really safe place, then we're going to add, and again, this is just an example of an approach to okay, now I'm going to show you also how to give you, because if your horse cannot say no, you have no idea if yes is compliant or consenting. It's not easy. I'm not always 100% sure. And honestly, as we're discussing, I would like somebody to teach me that. Or it's not, you can't really teach me that. Give me more for my toolbox that I can set these tests up.
It's going to be nuanced to every single horse and rider and their compatibility of skills and education. As a service provider, you need to be able to speak to those people about specific, it has to get that specific.
If we're taking a horse that was dangerous, to get that horse to be calmly complying is already a huge accomplishment.
And that's harmonious.
That is, maybe that's all that horse has in its lifetime of recovering a trust in people. It could be that we're starting off with the horse that's already, you bred it yourself, you took your time, you started it super gentle, has no trauma, it's completely naive as it comes to people, has never experienced anything bad, and it is a really nice, compliant young horse, right? So now can I take the conversation further where I can learn how to listen to these subtle signs, and this horse has no problem communicating those to me. And my toolbox needs to be such that I can comply sometimes and also be able to say sometimes no without breaking the bond, right? So it's that specific. And I think as that bonding market increases and in size, especially when it comes to online offerings where you have a global audience and a global competition, is to be sure that your subtle subsection of this bond is clearly defined. I mean, we've seen this, my husband and I spent so much time gentling Mustangs at a rescue, and when they were freshly caught and adopted, they were already here. They had seen a lot of stuff from other people, damage. They started here, and it took a long time. And I don't always know if you actually have enough of a lifetime span to get them all the way across. Nothing wrong with it. A horse that goes from here to here we're talking about horse first, right? We're talking about a full spectrum. There was one that would faint if you tied him up. I wouldn't want to know that trauma that horse experienced. Poof, fell down, was a huge Mustang. And then woke up and shook his head and got up and like, what the hell happened? Every time you tied him up, he was gone, right? We know now vagal nervous system shut down and all of that. So to get him to be a happy-go-lucky riding horse would be a huge accomplishment. I don't know if, like, according to Steve Peters, their trauma stays here and can come sometimes, emerges spontaneously, right? So maybe that's here. And most of your clients are actually those kind of people that pick up these type of horses. Then go tell them, are you here? Do you have a horse that lost all trust in its people? Let's get you to here. So that you can go on safe trail rides, yada.
Same thing with if you are a discipline specific trainer and you always have these clients that get these horses that are those kind of robot level compliance, and they want to connect with that horse in a way that the horse actually enjoys doing its job again and being with people again, rather than just being a robot, then you have to speak to that specific person and how you're going to do it and the results that they can expect, and also perhaps the struggles they've had along the way to get there. Because when you're dealing with that type of horse, we're dealing with a horse that once they start to wake up may decompensate in a massive way and needs to be guided compassionately back to a place where it feels safe and knows that it can say no in a subtle way and be heard.
Then it's going to be completely deregulated, right? So the horse that was well started, but if you didn't work on yourself and made that connection more subtle, would just stay a compliant kind of a horse, but it's kind of like a blah type relationship. To most people, that might feel fine, but to your avatar, your person, that doesn't feel fine. That's for me. Like all of my horses for a long time now have been really happy. They've just been really okay doing their job. Let's just say it that blunt. They come to the gate. They come with me. They're tied up. They stand still for the saddle. They stand still for a mounting block. They walk trot canter on trail rides. But how do I actually know and take them to this next level where they go, that felt great? And then other people might say, you got a horse that like turns its butt to you when you come to the gate. I'm going to take you this far. I think that would be a huge service, both for the person who wants to work this bonding, more subtle work, and for the people that person attracts. So hopefully we've been able to help some people narrow it down more. And we're always here open to discussions around that. That's just from a horse women's perspective and a marketer's perspective, kind of combined. How you do that, we stay out of.